Dara, the makeup designer for Mean Girls on Broadway, the key on late night movie that we just started shooting with Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling, third on Billions, just do a little bit of it all, do background with these ladies' movies and shows, so a little bit of everything. Awesome.
And I'm Chris Malone. I'm currently working on the Ryan Murphy show Pose. I was also the key on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, amongst a bazillion other things. But what we're here today to talk about is what it means to be in a union, why you should join a union, and the importance of unions in today's political climate. So, Rose, if you'd like to start with your little exercise.
All right. How many people here are working at their craft? Raise your hand. Are you all makeup artists? I want you all to stand up. All the makeup artists that are working, stand up.
Standing, working makeup artists.
Working makeup artists, stand up. How many of you have started saving for your retirement? Sit down. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm so impressed. Hello, that's wonderful. How many of you have health coverage, dental, eyeglass, that you're not under your parents' plan? That's really wonderful. Who pays for these things? Do you pay for them? When you're in a union, the employer pays for them. When you're in a union, the employer pays you a contract rate that's guaranteed. And how many of you are also aware of the pay inequity out there? It's been out there for years. Actresses have been talking about it lately. But even before actresses started talking about making millions of dollars less than the male leads, there were a lot of people out there in the corporate world who were not getting equal pay. When you're in a union, the contract is for everybody. Doesn't matter what sex, race, religion, it doesn't matter. It is a minimum contract scale, and when you work under the contract as a union member, you are guaranteed to make that. You are guaranteed to not only make that minimum scale, you can work above scale if you can get it in a negotiation. There's a minimum, but there's no maximum. You can go as high as you want. You get about 20% of your salary paid into your benefits. A pension, instead of a 401k, most of the contracts have an annuity. Health and welfare is your medical, your eyeglass, your dental. None of that comes out of your pocket. So that's 20% more money on top of the salary you're earning. Now, some people out there who are anti-union, and I guess everybody in the room is aware there's a real anti-union sentiment in the country right now in Congress where they're trying to make everything right to work. The truth is, we don't make anything compared to what the employers make, what the studios make, what the CEOs make. We just want to make a living, support our families, put our kids in school, retire with money in the bank. We're not asking for millions of dollars. So don't let anti-union people talk to you and say, union people, they get too much money. We deserve more, but we make a decent amount of money. So basically, I just want to say to you, think in terms of politics, think in terms of business, money, and all the different things you want as you grow older, in addition to working with some of the best, the brightest, the most talented hair and makeup artists in the industry, because they're in the union, whether they're in Local 798 here in the East Coast, they're in Local 706 on the West Coast, they're in the union working on all the big jobs you go and see. And really, that's all I wanted to say to you. I mean, there's a lot more. Obviously, I could talk for the whole hour, but I'm going to stop now.
So we have people that work in all different fields and different areas of the industry. We have like film and TV, we have Broadway, we have people that do episodic television. So I just want to get their perspective, what the union means to you and what the union has done for you since joining. Start it, Nikki.
To me, not being American, coming from a different country, it was very, very important for me that I would be with an organization that takes care of me in sense of protecting my rights, protects the money I make, it protects me the way employers are allowed to work with me. There's a great educational program that you have. It's not automatic that when you have a union member that they're amazing in what they do. I mean, there's, great people, there's good people, there's amazing people, there's not amazing people, but at least there is somewhat of a balance of people knowing their craft, not only their craft, but also what it entails to run a job, if it's a TV show or a movie. And it's a really important community where you can sit together and talk about problems that occur, where it's a brotherhood, it's just something that is really important to protect you and also move you forward. I mean, that's the most important aspect for me, why it's important to be in the union. And quite frankly, because I have so much respect for what the union has been done to me, if I have jobs, I wouldn't hire non-union people, just for the sense that it is important that we bring in non-union people so they can work with us, so we can be kind of like one in a way. And there's, I'll think of more things in a little bit, but I'll let other people talk too.
I also joined because I wanted to be under a contract. I found like the question that you get when you're non-union, like what's your rate, can vary so much. I mean, you could be working for $150 a day, you can be working for like $1,000 a day, and the stress of that, I always felt a little bit like, I don't know, I mean, what's your budget? Like, you know, and I feel like under a union contract, you know what their budget is because, in general, because there's tiers of the amount of money you can make. So if you're working for a low budget project, you make less money, but you also know they can't spend more money. Like they have to adhere to a certain amount of money. The actors make it on the back end, and that sucks, but we don't, you know, it's, at least you know that there's some equality, and that made me feel more protected, the way Nikki was saying, with, you know, the contract's really important. It's very important to read your contract when you become a union as well, because they still try to kind of go around it a little bit. But I also think that there's a lot of protections you don't have when you're non-union. Like, I was doing makeup in a moving van, like between locations, you know, like everything's run and gun, you know, they might not feed you, or there's some chips on a table, you know, the whole thing, the idea of a hot meal, like, doesn't necessarily exist, or pizza, it's always pizza all the time, and, you know, between the chips and the pizza and the moving cars, and like, you're like, this can't be healthy for anyone, you know, and all those protections are there, you know, you have a designated meal break, and when you don't get broken on time, you get paid. You know, and so it can be hard. You can still end up working long hours and like not eat for 6 hours, or it might not be 6 hours, that's normal. But you cannot eat for, you know, 10 hours, but you got paid really well for not eating for 10 hours, and there's still food around. So I think that there's so many more protections that you have when you're union. And the one more thing I wanted to say was I'm starting a job that's union, and the line producer is non-union, or he works a lot non-union, and he was bragging to me about how he's able to pay non-union people more. He's like, oh, when I do non-union commercials, I can pay them more than I can if you guys are union. And that's just not true, because as Rose was saying, with the 20% on top with your benefits, he might give you an extra $100 for the day, but you're going to be stuck paying for your own health insurance in 3 months. You know, there are no meal penalties because they don't have to pay them. So you might have gotten an extra $100 up front, but, you know, we can get hundreds of dollars in meal penalties a week just from not being fed on time. Like, so the abuse level is, I mean, well, I haven't gotten thousands. That sucks. That's a really hard job. But I just, you know, just, you're protected. Yeah.
And the quick thing too is, like, it's not even about the money getting paid for overtime and meal penalties. I mean, productions don't want to spend that money on penalties and overtime, because at the end of the day, you want to have a life too. You want to go home and rest, and you want to see your children and your family, and you don't want to work 20-hour days and then drive home completely tired and crash into a tree. You know, you don't want these things to happen. So at least there's a certain kind of a protection there, where at least if they don't go, you know, they don't feed you, they do make you work longer, at least to get compensated for it. But it also is a warning sign to their budget, like, oh, if I keep doing that, then I'm wasting too much money on my budget, and they need to figure out other solutions to still keep you in a humane way of working.
What they touched on, but they didn't say the word, was safety. Now, let me tell you something. Being in a union is not perfect. You're not going to love everything that is contractually, you know, put in place for you. You're not going to love every job. You're not going to love every person. I don't think that was me. But there are more protections, and safety is one of them. Believe it or not, when you're on a job, there are safety hotlines for every union member, that if production is trying to do something that you recognize is unsafe, you call that hotline, and the business reps, because the business reps of the unions are there to protect you. The contract is there to protect you. And you have more voice without speaking than you'll ever have as one person in a sea of one people working and speaking for themselves. We're collective. We have a collective unit, and the voice of many speaks louder, and I think you all know this, than the voice of one. Just look at the marches lately. Look at the protests lately. All those people are heard better than one person standing on a street corner. So safety is also one of the things that you have when you're in the union, because it's built into the contract.
I think for me, when I was doing more fashion work, you know, I was thinking about joining the union, and I was looking at just the projects that I could get on as a union member. I mean, if you want to work on a television show that you can see on your TV at home, you kind of have to be union. If you want to do a major motion film, you have to be union. If you want to work on Broadway. So all of the things that I wanted to do, I noticed were more and more union jobs. And the thing is, a lot of people have a misconception that they can't do editorial, or that they can't do Fashion Week, or that they can't do other things, but you don't necessarily have to give up all of your non-union work. You know, you'll make choices based on what's best for you and your finances, but if you want to have the opportunity to be on a union set, you have to be union to do that. And another one of the things that made me really think about joining the union was, how many of you guys are waiting for a check right now? Like past 30 days? Past 60 days? Maybe even past 90 days? Yeah, we've been there, right? People are like, oh yeah, it's coming, it's in the mail, yeah. On a union job, you don't wait 30, 60, 90 days for your check. It's a production schedule. You get paid every week. You know when your money's coming in. You know, then it doesn't just all come in and you pay all your bills and you're broke again waiting another 90 days. Like, there's something about building a life for yourself that's sustainable when you're able to calculate your finances and, like, you know, live a life. I think that's a really important thing, and as makeup artists, we should not be able to do that. Like, that's not a lot to ask. So for me, like, financial stability and the amazing opportunities to work with people like this on this stage, it was very clear to me that I wanted to join the union to have a part of that.
I'm going back to safety. Just finished up a season, and towards the end of our season, we were doing crazy hours, 16-hour days. But I have to say, I got to the, you know, I had the head come to me and say, they're offering you a hotel room because we're doing it's going to be an early call time. And when do you get that? When you don't have this security or that safety net behind you, that someone comes to you on a job that you've worked 18 hours and you know you've got travel time of an hour to get home by the time you get to bed, and then an hour and a half if it's rush hour time to get, or 2 hours to get back. To know that someone's offered you a hotel room to make it somewhat more convenient for you and safe. I mean, you know, it's just, you just can't beat that. You really can't. And everyone looks out for each other. You know, if there's an issue, you can go to talk to anyone. You can call them about anything. I've called him and said, hey, I need help. And he's on a whole other different project than I am. And I was like, you need to ask about products. Everyone is just so open and free with their knowledge, and they just want everyone to feel like a community and a sense of being. It's just a wonderful experience. That's why we call ourselves brothers and sisters.
When you're in a union, you refer to each other as brother and sister. See, this makes me cry. As the union president, this is very deep to me. When we talk about each other, it's like Sister Nikki, Sister Michelle, you know, it's like, we are a community, we really are. And that doesn't mean everybody likes each other. Again, I don't want to paint an unrealistic picture, but we really are a community.
I agree with everything they all said, but I also want to add, how many people own a house, pay a mortgage? Well, I don't think I would have been able to do those things without being part of the union and having that sort of income. Plus, if there were ever hardships or you were unable to, like lack of work, there's a strike, there are so many protections and programs that the union is involved with and donates money to that can help its members out if they're ever in hardship or unable to work, break a leg, break your arm, you're unable to work. The union has protections for that, so that you're not thrown out on the street or whatever. So now I bet you're all wondering, okay, how do I join? So we have a website. It's www.local798.net. There is a little bar that says how to apply. You click on that. All the explanation of stuff is there. There's a list of requirements. There's forms you must download and fill out. There's an email address to membership@local798.net. That goes straight to me. I have cards with me. I can hand them out. If you want to see me later, I'll give you a card so you have my card. All membership email questions come to me. If you have questions, I'm your guy. I'll go down the requirements. And
you know what I also wanted to talk about? When you're a union member, there are discounts you get that only union members get. I want to correct something that's been said because I am the legal representative up here of the union. You don't have to be in a union to work. You don't have to be in a union to make a living. But some of the better jobs and some of the more talented people, usually, because you can be non-union and be kick-ass talented, but most of the time they're in the union. I don't want people to think, oh, if I don't join the union, I can't make a living. Anybody can make a living in this country. Anybody, whether it's a right-to-work state or a not right-to-work state, you have the right to work. So I just want that to be clear, but being in the union gives you more opportunities. It opens up more doors. You get discounts for so many different things if you have a union card, from trade shows to gymnasiums to product, etc. You know, there's
getting a mortgage.
Right, there's a lot of things that being a union member do in a way allow you to get at a discount that when you're not a member, you don't get. But if you're talented and you want to work and you just want to do print or something, you don't have to join the union to do that. And if you're in the union, as it's already been said, you can still do that.
I think we can open the floor to questions now, or should I go through the requirements?
If you want to go through the requirements, I mean,
we still have some time? Oh. Wow, really?
We have an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is only...
All right. Well, okay, so I'll go through the requirements really quickly. So, to apply to the union, you need to have 180 days of covered work. What that means is covered by any one of our contracts. And we cover contracts in film, TV, live theatrical theater, and commercials. Also digital media, like digital films or like online film and web series, that sort of type of thing. So 180 days in 3 years. The 3 years preceding the year you are applying. So unfortunately this year the cutoff just passed. The last day to get your application in was March 31st. So you'll have to wait until next year, go around. The application process opens in January, from January to March 31st, and you have at that period to get your application in. You have to have 18 months residency within our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction covers the entire East Coast from Maine to Florida, all the way to the South, Atlanta, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. 18 months anywhere in that jurisdiction. If you're a hairstylist, you need to have a cosmetology license. If you're a makeup artist, it's not an absolute requirement, but if you have a certificate from an accredited makeup school, you would include that. 3 letters of reference from either industry-related professionals. They could be union members, they could be producers, they could be directors, they could be actors that you've worked with. 3 letters of recommendation.
You're either a citizen or that you have a right to work card. And I want to say something about the 180 days to make that more clear. You're non-union. You're not going to have 180 days on union jobs. We don't expect you to. When Chris says under contract covered work of film, TV, theater, new media, what he means is things that are non-union but would be, like there are non-union films, there's non-union theater, there's non-union everything.
TV, there's non-union news.
Right, there's a lot of non-union work out there. It's the work that if you were in the union would be covered under a contract. Here's an example. You're working at Macy's makeup counter, no contract. You're doing brides, you're doing beautiful brides, the best brides ever, no contract. You're working in a hair salon. You're the owner of the hair salon, 20 years, the best hairdresser in New York, no contract. it has to be things that have to do with the contract.
Is that clear? And then I think that was it. I printed it out and I forgot to bring it up here.
There's 8 requirements basically. We have it's with us. We brought them.
Yeah, I did. I'll go get it.
We both have them. That's when you get asked to interview. In order to just be invited to interview, you have to basically have 180 days and 3 years. The website explains it really well. I wrote the requirements. I think they're real easy to understand. I think you helped me write the requirements a few years ago, Judy Chin, a few of us. I think they're easy to understand. And when you have a question, membership at Local 798. Chris, you just call them, you email and say, I got a question.
The list is on the website. You could download the list. This whole list is up there.
Right, just read the 8 of them, because one is the mailing date.
You must have your application must be postmarked before nothing past March 31st of the year you apply. You must have a cover letter stating all documents attached to 2 copies of the originals of all your paperwork. You must have a resume that must list makeup or hair, not both. Must list, because you could only apply as a makeup artist or a hairstylist. That's it.
I want to address that further. You're non-union. When you work on a job, you probably do both. How many people here do both hair and makeup when they work? Right. But how many of you know that there's one craft you love more than the other? Like you want to be a hairstylist or makeup artist. I was the same. Most of us who were non-union were the same. But when you join the union, you take that same resume. You could have 20 credits, 30 credits. They say hair and makeup in your non-union world. You want to apply as a makeup artist. You remove the word hairstylist, same credit, you did both crafts. So if you did Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and you did both, which of course you wouldn't on, it's a union job, but I'm just using that as an example because everybody said it, you would just remove the craft that you're not applying for. So it's not like you lose the craft on your resume. You don't throw them away, you just take out the word.
Great. The next thing is the notarized signature on the terms and conditions, which the terms and conditions is on the website, which you have to download, print, and then get notarized and sign. A copy of your valid driver's license, state picture ID, birth certificate, passport to show you're a resident, you're a legal citizen of the United States. An 18 months residency, I already mentioned that. Hairstylist, cosmetology license, 3 letters of reference, and then the 180-day proof of 180 days work. So my advice to you, save everything.
Start now.
Save every call sheet, save every pay stub, save every piece of correspondence, save it all, keep it organized. You need to show proof that you have worked the job and proof that you were paid for the job.
Because we want people in the union. It's right now it's $3,500 to join our union, and that's not one of the higher fees. It's higher in other unions. And in the union, believe it or not, you can make that back in 1 week. But you want to have all the things together as you work starting now. If you're on a job and they generate a call sheet and your name is on it, save it. You get a pay stub for that day's work, staple it. So that when it comes time to putting together 180 days, you make copies of all of these things. God forbid UPS loses it, which has happened. You still have proof to recopy and send. You never send originals of anything. But anything you do, if you have an invoice, and you get paid, staple the pay stub to the invoice. I could sit at my computer and type out 180 invoices without a pay stub. You know, there's no proof. You have to show proof that you did the job.
That you were paid
and
for the job.
because it costs so much to join, we want to know you can make a living. You know, we want you to be working and making money now. We don't get you work. You get you work through the connections you make. You come to membership meetings, you get hired to come and day play and do background, you start to meet people, you get your own work. We're not a hiring hall. We do the contract, we make sure you're protected under the contract, we negotiate that for you, we solve any grievances you have, etc. But you have to get your own work, so you want to be working towards building a network of friends.
Something. Even though the union is not a hiring hall and the union does not guarantee that you get work from them, I will say that there is sort of an umbrella of just sisters and brothers. So it's nice to know that, you know, when you're looking for work and when you just join, there are people to reach out to. I mean, everyone's email is pretty much available. If you know a project is crewing up, you can reach out very respectfully and say, hey, like I just joined the union, this is my resume, this is my website, and start building, your network within the union. So I feel like by just joining, I had a bigger pool of people that I could reach out to, and it suddenly became very accessible. And I was pretty much working right away, you know, and I definitely did the homework so I get, you know, the network together, but I feel like it was pretty consistent. And there's a lot of work in New York, guys. New York, New Jersey, Staten Island, there's a lot of production work coming to town. There's a lot of stuff that's already here. We're really lucky that we live in a place where people want to film. It's an exciting city. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here. And we have Broadway, and we have all the networks, and Netflix, and Amazon, and all of these things, they film here. So there's enough work for everyone. You know, it's a really generous place to be because I feel like everyone feels that. It's lovely.
So all those requirements that I said, those were just the application requirements. And now I'm going to read down the list for the portfolio requirements for a makeup artist when you join. Once you've applied,
you want to start saving this. You want to start saving your work,
right.
Proof of your work.
Once you've submitted your application of all that in 180 days and you've been accepted, you're then invited to interview. And at this interview, you must bring your portfolio and present it to the committee, and then we talk about your work and everything. So some of the portfolio requirements for makeup, we need straight and corrected makeup, straight makeup, beauty, fashion type makeup. We want to see period makeup looks, and not just one period, like several, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc.
Not all of them, Chris. Don't scare them. Not every decade. Don't
you don't
go
need
back
one of
to
each,
the
but we want to
1500s.
see something.
Yeah, okay,
Pick
go ahead,
two.
do it. Do it. Every decade.
Pick your favorites. We need aging with highlight and shadow, and then aging with stretch and stipple. If you don't know what that is, you need to find out. We need facial hair, we need lace pieces, as well as hand laying for mustache, sideburns, and beard, because for makeup, we're in charge of facial hair. We need to see a bald cap. Don't put in your first one ever. Put like maybe the third or fourth one you've ever done, not the first one. Practice. Some basic effects, dirt, sweat, bruises, cuts, burns, scabs. Example of each, it could be a mix, it could all be on one face, whatever you want to do, but make it make sense. And all the photos must look camera ready, because we've gotten some things that are like, the pictures are blurry, they're out of focus, we can't tell what it is. Make sure it's a nice, professional looking photo. It could be 4x6, it could be 8x10, it could be 11x14,
and no
Photoshop.
And by camera ready, he doesn't mean still photographer took your photos. We're not talking about
we don't
that.
Need, doesn't
he
need to be
means
professional.
Quality. When the makeup artists sit and look at a portfolio, and when the hairstylists look at hairstyles, if it's poor quality, when you either download it from your website, which you can do, or print it out and come with photos, if people can't see the work, you're going to fail. You know, you want to show them the work. It doesn't have to be a big photo. It can be 4x6, but make it crisp.
All right, so I think we can, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing about that, because I think that it can sound overwhelming if you're used to just doing beauty and now you need to know how to do a bald cap, or now you have to do facial hair. But realistically, you have like 3 years, you know, if you're already far along. But just start practicing those things now. You know, there's a lot of makeup books, learn something and you know, do it a couple times. You can do a YouTube video, there's classes. I mean, it's important to have it, and they're not going to let you in if you don't have it. And you might say, this is not the kind of work I usually do, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to have to do a bald cap all of the time, but you should know how to do it, and it does come up every now and then randomly. So, you know, spend the time and learn it. It's fun. You know, get a friend, practice on them, and then take a picture.
The reason we ask for these things, even if you're a beauty artist and you've never done special effects ever in your life, is to know the tools involved for doing these things, because we want everybody to be at the same sort of level of understanding of our industry, of our products, of our tools, and what's expected of you on set. Because it will happen. We'll come across on set where someone's going to throw you a bag of effect stuff and say, "I need you to do this. Can you do this right now?" It'll happen. So we need to know.
I think too, there's sometimes a misconception that, oh, like I'll get in the union and then I'll learn it. But I mean, I can speak for like my first job was a really low budget feature film, and the department head was like, yeah, you know, you have to make this woman look like a battered housewife, and you're just gonna like give her, you know, a black eye and a swollen lip, and then just take it to set and have the director look at it and okay it. You know, and there was no like, oh, I'll check it out and make sure it's fine. And no, like I needed to know how to do it. I was expected to know how to do it. And, you know, even though I was like, I totally did it, went to the director, who's kind of a big deal, you know, wasn't just like some random guy. And he was like, yeah, that's great, you know, but you have to be ready to just jump in and start running once you're there. And that 3-year period while you're getting your days, you know, it does sound like a lot when you start, but the truth is during that 3-year period, you are learning, you know, in a place that's a little bit safer, the stakes aren't quite as high because it's, you know, low budget film where everyone's kind of learning. So you make your mistakes there where it's a little bit more forgiving and you figure it out there and you grow your skill set there. And then by the time you're ready to join, you have a book, you know, and you have a portfolio that's ready, and it really makes a huge difference. I mean, I didn't have that when I started. I came from a fashion background, and I think I had someone say, oh yeah, the union, you'll never get in. You have to be so good at special effects. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna figure it out. So it is possible, and I'm sitting here proof that it is possible.
I actually have a question from my union folks here. Special effects. So will we have like a separate category for people who just do special effect makeup?
No. And
No.
here's the thing. You show up to work. For some reason, they have to change the shooting order. You were expecting to come and help do background and just make people look homeless. And now all of a sudden, you have to lay sideburns on people. It's like, no, we're doing this scene now, and it's a period. It's another error. You got to all lay sideburns. You don't know how to lay sideburns. Somebody just hired you for an 8-hour day, and you're like, but I thought I was going to make homeless people look dirty. I can do that. It's like you have to do a little bit of everything well enough not to make the people around you look bad. Every one of us have showed up on a job, even our own jobs, where when the schedule changed, we were completely unprepared in the sense of we didn't expect it. But we have the skills in the background to, pull the rabbit out of the bag, to be polite, because normally when I'm with my friends I would say something more coarse than that. But you have to know how to do that. You have to know a little bit of everything. Do I expect you to be, you know, a prosthetic makeup artist? No. But you have to know how to do a bruise or a little cut or sweat or things like that. Do you have to know how to prep a wig and put a wig on if you're a hairstylist? Absolutely. You've got to know enough about everything to be able to punt when the ball is thrown. Is that, oh, I don't know sports at all. Anybody in here? That was probably like the
No, that was good. You got
was
it
that
right.
really, because I don't even know what punt means. It's like all of a sudden I was like, wait, what does it mean to punt? Anyway, but you know what I'm saying? You have to know. You have to be able to step up.
I always use the analogy of a flashlight spinning in a dark room, and everybody's just running around crazy. And then the flashlight will eventually stop and land on you, and you got to be ready to do whatever it is they want you to do.
I like that.
Can I ask another question? I'm just like basically asking questions for you, and then you guys can